welcome back to the Scoreboard Sports Podcast. I'm Cameron Clark alongside Connor Kendall here for episode number 2. If you missed episode 1, we're out on YouTube and Spotify, so you can go back and listen to that. I believe the title is Scoreboard Sports Podcast 1 or something like that.
Yeah, we'll probably come up with a better name, but
yeah, we'll figure it out.
That's it for now.
We're in the beginning stages of everything, but it's been fun. Connor, how's the day today going for you?
Oh, good. Just got to work from home today, so.
Oh, that's nice.
It was nice. I mean, we made it to episode 2, so can't complain about that either. So.
Hey, we didn't get fired, so.
Yeah, I mean, if we got fired, that's a cause for concern. But
yeah, especially since we're the only ones who are doing this. But,
exactly.
I mean, I guess you could fire me. You're the one kind of running the show here. You're doing all the editing and all that stuff. So.
I will not fire you if that calms your mind. I will not fire you.
That's good to hear. I do gotta ask though, before we get started with everything, what logo is that on your hat?
Do you know what this logo? Do you want me to say what it is, or do you actually know?
I don't know. Is it a Japanese baseball? Because I know you have some Japanese baseball stuff.
Is
it the Hiroshima Tigers?
It's Hanshin Tigers. Yeah.
Okay.
They're. I need to dive into history a little bit more, but they're based out of Osaka.
Okay.
So they're referred to as like the Osaka Tigers, but there's also another ball club in Osaka. I can't remember the name of the city they're branded to because I bet they're doing the same thing as the Tigers are. They're the Buffaloes though, but this is the major team in Osaka. I think they won the Nippon League last season. So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
So I know you've got a Yomiuri Giants. I can't remember if it's a jersey or a hat, but why the fascination with Japanese baseball?
Well, I love Japan. I've gone twice. I went 2 years ago. No, 1 year ago was my first visit. It was during the summer. I went with a couple buddies, fell in love with the place. That's when I first got the Giants hat. Got to see the Superdome. Is it called the Superdome? I can't remember.
I don't know. Is it the Tokyo Dome?
Yeah, the Tokyo Dome. Yeah, I want to say Superdome because it's massive. But
yeah,
I saw the Tokyo Dome. When I was there too, they were having a game, coincidentally. So I got to see the whole fan affair. Tickets were a little pricey, so I didn't get to catch the game. But the whole area where the stadium's located is insane. There's like a little amusement park right off to the side as well.
Dang.
So that's when I got the first hat. I started doing more research, kind of watched a couple highlights from games here and there. And then when my wife and we went on our honeymoon, we went on our honeymoon to Japan as well. And we spent a little more time in Osaka than I did my first visit. And I started falling in love with Osaka, that city. So I'm like, what is I don't know if I searched with the best team in Osaka or most popular, but in retrospect to where we were staying, this was also the closest team. And coincidentally, they had also won the Nippon League
there you go.
that season before. So I'm like, I got to buy a hat now. So
yeah, I know. I just bought a bunch of hats. I don't know if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram or not, but I just recently bought, I think it was like 12 hats. So I'm wearing my Brewers hat today. I've got half the major league teams now. So my goal is to have a hat from every team. I think I've gone the last 10 days wearing a hat from a different major league team. So that's been kind of exciting. But I spend way too much money on hats, but I enjoy it. I've got the postseason on the side,
cool.
So yeah.
So I have a very similar thing. Mine is for every ball stadium I visit, I get a cap. So I could probably get them out right now and show you, but my fascination with them are here. I'll get one just for example, real quick.
And while you're doing that, I'll tell everyone I've also got a collection, not stadiums that I've necessarily visited, but if I know someone who's going to a major league stadium, I have them get a baseball for me, and so it just collects I just have a collection of I think 26 of the 30 stadiums, a baseball from there. So I've only been to I've been to 3 stadiums. I've been to the Diamondbacks, Padres, and Angels. So those balls I've gotten myself, but I think the stadiums I'm missing is Baltimore, Minneapolis, Detroit, and the White Sox.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's dope. I caught a little bit of it, so
yeah.
I'll have to watch back on
Yeah.
this.
There you go.
But no, the hats that I typically buy. So this one is cool. So this is an A's hat.
That's a nice
It
one.
has the patch on the side. It's like corduroy, I think, is the
Okay.
texture. But I don't know why it bugs me if I don't buy a hat like this. So New Era or MLB, it's probably New Era.
Mm.
They'll drop Cooperstown collections. I don't know if you noticed
Yeah.
that. And on the back of each Cooperstown, the MLB logo is a little different.
Oh, cool.
So it's more boxy, and the bottom is gray. And
Interesting.
so I have developed a fascination of buying hats like this that are more, I guess, historic, like with the club's like origins. So like with this Padres hat, that's like the first logo and
Yeah.
design of their first hat. And on the back, I mean, has like a more yellow outline and then the colors, but that's the basis of my collection, which I think is
That is
pretty dope.
sweet.
But
Yeah, I just went on Fanatics and found the cheapest hats I could find, and since these were the 2024 postseason ones, they were like $15. So I was like, might as well grab them.
no, those are dope. I have a Red Sox one with the '04 World
That's
Series
cool.
or yeah, World Series patch. So that one's probably my favorite. But next in line might be this corduroy Oakland hat. Especially
Yeah.
says it says Oakland, and then I have a reason to go to when they moved to Vegas to go to a game. So
Yeah, there you go. It'll be exciting stuff. I think Portland just released their like stadium rendering for whatever they're going to try and do
oh, I
um,
think I
for their
actually saw
stadium.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it looks cool, but I'm hoping the team comes here to Salt Lake. So
Oh yeah. Aren't the MLB thinking of either it's more of it's an expansion, right? For
mhm.
sure.
Yeah, I was.
Expanding to two teams, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So they want one. Oh, look at that balloons.
I don't know
That's.
why there's balloons, but
I don't know either, but we'll take it. Um, but I think they're aiming for one in the Eastern time zone and one in either the Pacific or Mountain time zone.
mhm.
But I've heard with the Eastern time zone that they're thinking of doing Nashville, which technically is in the Central time zone, but it's close enough to the East Coast that that's kind of where they would want to go. They've already got a AAA team there. I think they're the Nashville Sounds. I don't remember which like who their major league affiliate is, but it's exciting stuff. I'm excited. I love when there's expansion teams and relocation and just opportunities for new logos, new uniforms, and everything, and it's exciting.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited to see if Salt Lake can get a team. I know obviously Portland is pushing. They're one of the front runners, but what was the other? Was Omaha on that list? I
I think
think I might have
Omaha, yeah,
seen. Yeah, it was pretty up there. Obviously, with rich College World Series
yeah,
history, which makes sense. But no,
and
I'm
yeah,
pushing for Salt Lake.
that'd be a lot of fun. And we'll talk a little bit of college baseball a bit later. But first, I mean, last night's BYU Iowa State game, like, holy cow. I've never, like, my heart was beating the entire
Oh
time
yeah.
during that game. Like, literally, so I went to bed way too late because I was going to plan on staying up, welcoming the team back. I was going to drive out to the Provo airport with my roommate. We were going to go welcome the team back. But the team's still in Des Moines. Flight got
Is it Ames
canceled.
or Des Moines?
I think so. Iowa State's in Ames, but I think they fly out of Des Moines.
Oh, they do.
And so,
Okay.
because of the bad weather back there, the team's still in Iowa.
Yeah, it's
So,
like a blizzard, right? It
yeah.
grounded all flights. Yeah, it's
And so I didn't end up. Obviously, we didn't end up going, but I was up way too late anyways, just doing other random things. And so I woke up this morning with my alarm, and I was like, I could tell that I just wasn't going to be getting up. And so I just snoozed and went right back to bed. Didn't wake up until 4 hours later. So
mhm.
I'm going to say the game last night made me miss my first two classes, which luckily wasn't too bad. But it was a wild game, to say the least.
The game made me work from home, so I'm in that same boat.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sitting in this exact chair watching the game on my PC, and the whole desk is just shaking and shaking. I'm like, I can't handle this. This is BYU Utah in the football
Yeah,
regular
for real.
season. I'm like, I'm going to have a stroke. I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm something. Yet for some reason I was pretty confident they were going to pull it off.
Yeah.
Especially when into double OT, I'm like, they're going to be gassed. We have such a deep roster. I mean, KY plays on a rotation of 10 players, which is
Yeah.
unheard of in NCAA. Like, for some reason, I forgot who the locked on Big 12 guy is, what his name is. It's
I think
slipping my
Jake Hatch.
mind. Yeah. No, he's on Locked on Cougars.
Oh.
Um,
Oh.
he was on BYU game day
Yeah.
for one of
Drake
the
Tolt.
football. Yes, I think so. Um, he was on, and he was talking about how for some reason his Kevin Young's game plan for such a large rotation annoys people. Like, just stick to five, six guys. Like, you don't need such a large rotation. I'm like, that's going to make us deadly in the
Yeah.
tournament. No one's going to be able to keep up with our pace. Like, we're going to have fresh legs. It's, well, hopefully, unless Don Hall keeps cramping through
Yeah.
March. But
I know. He's got to shave his mustache. I'm not a fan of
I
Down
was
Hall
getting
mustaches.
vibes. I was getting good vibes. I was like, okay, okay. That's the BYU honor code right there, but I
Yeah.
like it. I like it in a
I
way.
mean, hey, he can do if he puts up 22, 21 or 22 points like he did last night, he can do whatever he wants.
Oh yeah.
But it was exciting. I missed the first about 10 minutes. My family had come down to Provo, and so I was spending some time with them. And I'm thinking, oh well, I don't want to watch it. We went to JCW's, and so the game was on. And at first I was like, I don't want to watch it. I'll just come back home once the game's finished, and I'll watch the replay of it. And I'm so glad I did. Eventually, I was just like, okay, I gave in. So I saw 10 minutes left to go in the first half, and it was 17-5 or something like that. And I was just like, what in the world? Like, what are we doing?
Oh yeah. No, when I logged in, I started watching, and no, that was before. I was listening to the BYU radio broadcast, and I'm just hearing Greg like, well, we're at 4 minutes, no points. I'm like, oh, 5 minutes, no points. 9 minutes, nine turnovers. I'm like, what is happening? I'm like,
Yeah,
I thought we were gonna come in here guns a blazing. We're gonna just smack him in the mouth. So I stopped listening. I was mad. I'm like, this is just gonna put me in a bad mood. I do not want that. And so I get a call from my brother. He's like, "Yo, are you watching the game?" I'm like, "No, they're sucking right now. What do you mean? I do not want to watch
yeah,
this." He's like, "No, we're up. We're up by like, I can't. I think it was 2 minutes before halftime. Like we're up by 12." I'm like, "What? How did they swing that? They didn't have any points in the first 6 minutes of the game. How does this even happen?" And then from there on, I was regretting, but so thankful I tuned in
yeah.
due to the stress. I'm like, oh my gosh! But thank goodness that was one of the best basketball games I've ever watched.
100%. It shouldn't have been like we shouldn't have ended the way it did. Like I'm glad that was the final result. But I think just watching, because I came back to my apartment. I think the second half just started, and so my roommate was here. One of his buddies was here. So we were watching the game, and it just got crazy intense. And it was just like, what are we doing? We're falling apart. And I'm all of a sudden reminiscent of last year at Iowa State, where we were up 15 in the second half, and we blow the lead and end up losing. So I'm like, oh great, here we go again. Like I feel like BYU never has good luck when it comes to that sort of stuff, but I don't know what it is about this team, Kevin Young and these guys, but it's working.
Oh, it's working. I I think I mentioned on our first show that what it'll come down to, I think, is the free throws. That they had to shoot at least. I didn't think they were going to hit it, honestly, when I said it. I said 70%. I'm like, that is way too high for this team.
Yeah,
There's no way we're gonna skim past 40%. They went out there and shot 80% from the free
yeah,
throw line.
and I
Like Richie Saunders, 13 for 13. Like I think that ultimately, I mean, Kada, I think deserves the
yeah,
MVP for that game, but I think what won us was those free throws. From looking back at our track record going into that game, I think that was a
yeah.
huge exclamation point.
I mean, I was thinking about it while watching that game. Because what you talked about 70% and you win. And I was just like, well, the thing is, I don't think we're going to get to 70%. And even if we do, like, I think that's still a stretch. But then all of a sudden I see Richie shooting free throws at one point while I was at JCW's, and I was like, oh, cool, he's 6 for 6. And I'm thinking, like, oh, 70%. Like, ultimately it's got to fall apart. Ultimately he's going to miss one. But no, he just kept hitting them. And I mean, aside from Keita, like, I think the team only missed one or two free throws. I think Mag missed one, and I
I
think
think they
Delaware missed
missed
one.
6 for the
Oh, they
game.
missed
They're
six. Okay,
20,
they missed six.
25 of 31. I mean, Keita missed 3,
Okay.
so he missed half of the misses, but
Still, though, like,
still, I
to go 20, this team going 25 for 31 from three is equivalent to Navy throwing for 300 yards.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a video that surfaced. I want to say a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. It was when I don't know who they're playing. I could probably look it up, but that would take too much time. Awful free throw shooting
Yeah.
night, and Jaeger decided to stay in the gym and shoot till like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, he's taking it seriously. I can only imagine the fire raining down on the team the next morning in practice. Um, but it's working. And
Yeah.
I think free throws are such a pivotal part of March basketball going into the tournament, whether that's conference or the big dance. So seeing that they're kind of turning, like getting over that hill and making their free throws, I mean, that gets me excited. Seeing the defense, which honestly I think is underrated. I think BYU's defense is severely underlooked. There's a let me pull it up. There's a college basketball analytics guy. He dropped a chart of teams, competing for March, and on this scale is offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. BYU is on the cusp of what he believes they can make a Final Four push, which is, hey, if you're saying it, I'll take it.
I
It's,
mean, honestly, I'm happy if this team gets one tournament. We haven't had a tournament win since Jimmermania back in 2011. We knocked
yeah,
off Wofford in the first round. Then I think we beat Gonzaga in round two and lost to Florida in overtime.
hmm
But yeah,
I when I saw this, I was ecstatic. Like the same thing. I couldn't remember the last time we won a tournament game, but he had BYU's offensive efficiency way up here compared to their defense. And I'm like, I get where the numbers are saying, what the
yeah,
numbers are saying, but I think their defense is way underlooked. You have Keita out there rotating with Foose, who he's not bad. He's not bad down low, but with Keita down low, I that rim is on lockdown.
yeah. Like
So
scoring wise, Kate is a big liability. Like I don't think he's not meant to score. That's not why we have him. Like he gets the lob passes and the touch layups. I did love the play when he totally dunked on Richie Saunders. Richie Saunders
yeah,
got put on poster alert by Kaba.
that
But
putback, yeah.
yeah, um, I love Foose's offensive game when he can just manhandle guys down low. He wasn't really able to get that going in the game yesterday, but yeah, I mean, Kaba Keita, obviously his blocks are sweet. Richie Saunders has some really good blocks as well. Um, Jaegor's got some good hands. He's knocked the ball away a couple of times. But really, I think two of the most underrated players on the team is Trey Stewart and Wood Mag.
Oh yeah.
Like their defense is next level. Like I don't know if they do an all Big 12 like defensive team, but like Moet Mag should be first team all Big 12 when it comes to defense. And if Trey Stewart got more minutes, I think he should be as well. But their lockdown defense is what won us the game. I mean, you look at that last sequence for them when they had the ball up top of the key. Moet Mag, had that guy on lockdown. They kicked it to the corner where Trey Stewart was then guarding that guy, and he couldn't get a good shot off. He kind of threw it up, and Keita got the rebound as the shot clock expired, and that's what won us the game. Like you were saying, defense might be one of the most important parts of this team.
Oh yeah. You get Mag on there. I don't know what his um like his arm span is, what he measures out to, but he is a lengthy guy.
Yeah,
That is great for tipping passes. I mean, you get Tracer out there, like you just said, on that final possession to contest with their hottest 3-point shooter to try and win the game. I mean, he had no chance. He read it. Obviously, Iowa State's player didn't have a whole lot of options to do with the ball, but he read the reactment perfectly. to almost get a finger on that and tip it probably out of bounds or tip it for enough time to run the clock out. But no, when I saw that chart from the analytics guy, I think our defense is severely underrated. If we're still at an 8 seed come the tournament, that 1 seed above us is got to be shaken, because
Yeah.
if I'm a 1 seed, I do not want to be paired in the same either second round matchup, third round matchup. I don't want any part of us.
No. And I was looking, I saw something on Twitter today as I was just scrolling through while I got bored during one of my classes. And I think they listed the 8 seed teams as Illinois, BYU, Gonzaga, and UConn. And so you get I forget exactly what it said, but they were just saying I would hate to be a 1 seed in this tournament because you have Gonzaga, who's a top 10 team in net, I believe. You've got Illinois, who's knocked off Michigan. They've knocked off some other big names. They're playing really well right now. You have BYU, who we've been talking about, and then you've got UConn, who's a 2-time defending champion. Like, I don't want any part of those 8 seeds. Like, you hear
No.
the okay, March Madness. The 8-9 matchup is usually just a pick'em game, and there's no real way to tell if there's a definite winner or not. But if those were the 4 8 seeds, I'm taking 8 seeds all the way. Like, I don't think any of the 9 seeds stand a chance.
Oh, 100%. Unless some of the top seeded teams fall down into those 9, which I think is very unlikely going into conference championships. But like you said, 2 of those 8 seeds, projected 8 seeds, were preseason top 10 in Gonzaga and UConn.
Yeah.
So 8 seeds are going to be scary. I think BYU ultimately will jump up, at least in bracketology. I think the new one will come out tomorrow, unless it already came out today, which I don't think it did.
I don't think it has. Yeah.
Um,
March 4th is when the last one was. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm looking right now on Bracket Matrix, and they have BYU as the second highest rated 8 seed. They're averaging 7.69 is the seed, and their highest is. Let me see where that is. Oh, I don't know. Okay, so it says their lowest is a 9 seed that they would get, and their highest, I think someone has them as a 6 seed. Yeah, there's a couple people who have them as 6 seeds.
Okay,
So.
this is including the last night's win?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Okay.
some of them do. Some of them do, some of them don't. So
Okay.
this is, I think there's probably like 30 or so that have last night's games included. But yeah, ESPN hasn't updated it. CBS did. They have us as an 8 seed. But yeah, this is going to be a fun team to watch come tournament time.
100%. I don't see how they can't be anything lower than an 8. I don't think they'll be a 9.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Especially if the brackets continue to put like Utah State as a 9. Utah State's kind of been slipping. Just focus on them because they're local. They've been slipping a little bit. If they continue to be a 9, I don't see any reason why BYU should even touch an 8.
Yeah.
I think they're well within the 6, if not a 5 seed, especially if they make a good run in the conference tournament.
I think UVU has almost slid up to become the second best team in the state over Utah State. They went undefeated at home during conference play. I think they went would have been like.
They lost, I think.
Because they lost at Grand Canyon.
I don't think they lost at home. Yeah, I think that was their only loss in conference. Because they beat GCU in Orem.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's another fun team to watch. And yeah, I get it. The WAC obviously is a little bit less strong than Mountain West. With Mountain West, you got, New Mexico, you have San Diego State, Utah State, some 3 powerhouse teams. But
Boise State's kind of creeping in.
Better as well.
They're kind of making a little noise.
And so with UVU, I don't know if I remember the last time that there were 3 legit teams in the state of Utah.
No, and it almost was 4. If Utah, honestly, I think if Utah had won that game down in Orlando and not fired Craig Smith, they could potentially still have that momentum, and potentially if they had a good run in the conference tournament, we could have had 4 teams from the state in,
Yeah.
which I don't think that has ever happened.
No. And I really like that you brought that up because, the reports are out right now that their number one, like choice, if they had one, would be to hire Alex Jensen.
Mm-hmm.
Former Viewmont Viking. He played at Utah, obviously. He coached with the Jazz, so big local guy. I would love that hire if I'm Utah. I do find it interesting, though, that, I think they were going to go with him no matter what, even if Kevin Young hadn't come to BYU. But, now you're going to have the narrative of, okay, well, BYU, Utah, you've got two former top assistant head coaches who are vying for NBA head coaching jobs. It's like there's going to be real talent here in the state of Utah.
It's interesting to see if Alex Jensen will take that, because from the rumors I've been hearing on some radio shows, on some other podcasts, before Craig Smith was hired, Alex Jensen's name was getting thrown around as becoming the next head coach. And it sounded like from some sources that they reached out to him and said, the job is yours if you want it, and he declined. And so it makes me almost wonder where he values this job, because if I'm looking at it from a non-biased, like, I hate Utah. No, I hate Utah. If I don't look at it from a I hate Utah point of view, this job is very high pressure. Not in terms of like support, not in terms of because Utah fans support for the men's basketball, even the women's basketball. The women's basketball has been on a tear the last couple of years, and their support is better than the men's, but it's not by much. Looking at the history behind Utah men's basketball, I mean, it's huge. They're a basketball school, and to take that pressure, just knowing that, and from the expectations from probably alum, from boosters, from donors, I don't know if I want to touch it, because everyone that's come into that job has failed. You're in a harder conference than you were when you were in the Pac-12, than in the Mountain West. I don't know if Alex Jensen is saying, hey, I'm sitting pretty nice, making multi-millions on an NBA assistant contract, just chilling, watching Kyrie, watching AD just tear it up on the court.
Yeah.
Why would I want to put myself through all this stress? Yeah, I'm an alum. It's my school, but if I'm looking at it from the outside, I'm not touching it.
No, it's a hard job in the competitive world of NIL now. Utah, they don't have that funding. Like BYU they could bring in anyone. Duke, can bring in anyone. North Carolina, it's wild to throw BYU in with those schools, but with the amount of boosters that can back BYU, I think I saw something in the offseason of the top 3 schools for NIL of where they're getting the most money. And I think it was either Duke or Kentucky. I think it was at number 3. BYU was at number 2, and then Arkansas was at number 1. Mm-hmm. Right? When you have John Calipari and Wally World in Arkansas, I mean, obviously you're gonna get the booster money, but still, to have BYU in that conversation, BYU can recruit anyone, and realistically, they can get anyone. I mean, we're seeing that with AJ DeBonsa. We've seen that they're getting Xavier Stat, they're getting Chamberlain Burgess. They are in the process of hopefully getting Anthony Palesi, also from Utah Prep. Mm-hmm. And so, the fact that BYU is even in the top 5 for any of these guys is huge. With Utah, unfortunately, you're just not seeing that right.
No.
I would love to get to a point where BYU Utah can become, as competitive as an Auburn, Alabama, or as a Duke, North Carolina. Now, obviously, we're not going to get there, but I would love to make a run with Kentucky and Louisville, right? 2 big storied schools. Hopefully Utah can get a good head coach and they can bring in some good recruits, where all of a sudden it makes this rivalry a bit more competitive.
No, I agree. It's kind of funny though, because in the basketball side of things, it's kind of been back and forth the last couple of years, which is funny because you look at the rosters, just not taking in for the account it's a rivalry match. You'd think BYU would win this. They would have 10, 12 straight wins, but that's just not the case. But going back to NIL, I think it's interesting. Now, I'm not in the Utah NIL Ring of Honor, the circle of, the counting of counts, but there was a report that a donor, alum, someone with money, donated about 15 million to women's
Yeah,
athletics.
I
And
saw that.
so that gets me thinking, one, 15 million for women's athletics is probably huge.
Hmm.
You take that money and put it towards football, that's nothing. You
Yeah,
put that towards men's basketball, that's also almost nothing. I
yeah.
mean, it's in retrospect to where Utah's position is, they need a new coach. Guys, since the firing of Craig Smith, are probably dipping in the transfer portal. So they're going to have to rebuild from scratch next season,
Hmm.
is where I'm guessing. If you have your donors not even giving you a dollar into those programs, I don't see how they can afford uh, any caliber players like compared to AJ DeBonsa,
Yeah.
and
Like
especially getting Alex Jensen. I don't see how they get that money unless they have some secret trust fund and they're just they have just insane amount of money.
yeah, it'll be fun to watch in the coming years for sure. Um, yeah, BYU Utah rivalry games on Saturday. Who knows? Maybe we'll dive a little bit more deeper into it. Maybe we can do like a preview show on Friday, just focus on that.
Oh yeah, I
But
like it.
we'll see what we've got. But we've got some other things to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, we spent a long time on this topic. I mean, it was good. There was a lot of good conversation. I feel like back and forth, and there's so many aspects of this. With the Iowa State game, we didn't even touch on the Dallin Hall alley oop or the Kata Kata block. I
Oh
mean, like,
no. I mean,
what in
I
the
was
world?
making jokes. I watched Jake Hatch's post game live. I'm like, that was Lakeda out there. That was
Yeah,
like that was LeBron. That I was like, what a block like. What's the quote? Block
blocked by
like
James.
yeah, blocked by James. Like that was Kada last night. Dallin Hall freaking slamming that. I mean, white boys can jump. Come on, like
Yeah,
let's get going.
I've seen people call him, what was it? Something um like the Storm and Mormon, or I gotta look this up. 'Cause now there's these videos surfacing online of Dallin Hall as a missionary in Fresno. Did you see the big
I've
dunk that
seen
he
those
had?
videos. Yes.
Let me see. My buddy sent it to me. The
I want
Soren Mormon.
the
That's what I
sword.
call him.
Okay. I if I could be a fly on that backboard in that
Oh yeah,
video, just to one hear the pre-conversation of him coming up like, "Hey, do you want to hear like?" and having that little conversation. They probably said no, but like, "Hey, you want to hoop?" Oh yeah, like I played basketball in high school. I'm gonna go play in college. Oh yeah, okay, sure. And he freaking just slams it down
yeah.
on those guys, and they just go insane. Like, oh my gosh, that would have been hilarious. That would have been amazing to hear and watch.
It would have been good stuff. Some other, return missionaries making news. Obviously, we had Tanner McKee in the Super Bowl with the Eagles. He was able to play a little bit of a local story. I don't think he went to high school here. Maybe he did, but he is a member of the church. But we're talking Eagles. Saquon Barkley, 2-year contract extension, 20.6 million a year, 36 million guaranteed. Highest paid running back in NFL history.
I mean, he deserves every
Yeah,
single penny of that. I mean, reigning offensive player of the year, could have, probably should have. Well, not in the game, but going into the game was front runner for a Super Bowl MVP. Obviously, Jalen Hurts took that home and well
yeah,
deserved. But all that money is that well deserved. Should have expecting that coming from after the numbers he put up, 2,000 yard season, almost broke the single year rushing yards record. So
yeah. I mean, he's reinventing what it means to be a running back. Like every single running back in the league should be thinking Saquon Barkley, because before he comes to the Eagles, this is why the Giants didn't sign him. They didn't want to pay a running back that kind of money. And obviously, I don't know of a worse, like, well, this came back to bite you than Saquon Barkley and the Eagles winning the Super Bowl this year, and the Giants being left in the dust with 0 quarterbacks.
yeah,
It's a tough situation. Like I think I saw a tweet where there's 0 quarterbacks on the Giants roster, and this might be the best quarterback room they've had in years because there's 0 quarterbacks in there,
uh-huh.
and it's wild. Like other New York teams as well, like Devontae Adams being released by the Jets. I mean, everything is just, I don't even know. NFL world right now with all these signings and releasings, it's pretty crazy.
Well, as we started this episode, legit, probably on the dot, there is some breaking news in the NFL space. The Chargers have released five-time Pro Bowler Joey Bosa.
Really?
Yep, they just released him tonight. Let's see what the reasoning on here is Bosa struggled to stay healthy in recent years, missing 23 games
Yeah.
over the past 3 seasons, which that makes sense. I want to assume the main reason is probably because of Max Crosby. He signed an extension with the Raiders, 3-year extension, making him the highest paid non QB in NFL history. 3-year, $106 million extension. So Chargers are probably looking at that and saying,
Yeah.
we can hear the knock on the door right now, and we do not have that money, nor you probably deserve that money in terms of your past production. So let's just cut him, which is crazy. That is insane. When I read that, I'm like, we got to talk about this for a little bit at least.
Yeah. I mean, Max Crosby, he's out of Eastern Michigan. Um, like I haven't followed the Raiders super closely, so I mean, obviously he's good. Like I play Madden with my brother, and I know like that's who the Raiders have got. They've got Max Crosby, right? But I think they actually renamed the field at Eastern Michigan after Max Crosby because he donated a bunch of money to the school, and after getting a contract now of 3 years and 106 million, you said, like
Yeah,
that's all well deserved. He's gonna have a stadium named after him at one point. He's gonna have that field named after him. Right? Max Crosby is. Where do you think he ranks among top defensive linemen in the league?
going into the year, depending on health, obviously, of the linemen. I mean, we have Jared Verse on the Rams. He's the reigning rookie of the year on the defensive side. I don't know if he beats out Max Crosby, but his presence on there, especially with the Rams losing Aaron Donald, was a huge surprise for us Rams fans. I say he's in the mix for being top. I mean, he had just the Rams defense overall had one of the most sack numbers in playoffs in history, and they only played 2 games. Um, but in terms of Max Crosby on ranking, I mean, he's for sure top 3,
Yeah.
which is insane because you just think Raiders and you think poo poo. I mean, they have not been good the last
No.
couple of years. They do not have a quarterback whatsoever, which is something they need desperately. Whether that's getting one in trading up to get one in the draft, or trading to get one, signing one. Defensive side, they're set. I mean,
Yeah.
as you see with that extension with Max Crosby.
Yeah, I think Miles Garrett obviously up there. I think whenever whoever he gets traded to, I think there'll be a deal that probably gets restructured, and I can see Miles Garrett topping Max
Don't say
Crosby.
don't say that too loud. My brother's a Browns fan, and all he talks about is Miles Garrett. So
But talking about Raiders and quarterbacks, just as you were talking about, I mean, thoughts on Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders? Like, is that a fit that you could see?
here's the thing. I think old man Rodgers is done.
I think
Not
he is
like
too,
I
but
don't
like
think
just
he's
one more deal.
retiring
Yeah,
at all. He's going to go back into a dark cave, take some ayahuasca, and he's going to come out feeling rejuvenated, have some sort of impression that he'll be playing for the next 5 years, and then just go
yeah,
out there and, I mean, how many lessons do we have to teach you, this old man? Like, freaking get SpongeBob meme out here.
yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Like that thought crosses my mind. Like I think Shitter Sanders would be a great fit for the Raiders. They obviously don't have the receivers like Colorado did, but I think if we want to talk about like great, just like 1 year plan, I think signing Aaron Rodgers would be a great thing for the Raiders. And then you have Shitter as the backup for the year, and then you put him in maybe halfway through the season, maybe at the end of the year. Who knows? You give him that opportunity to learn from Rodgers.
I mean, depending on who they, if they were doing that, they would have to bring in 2 quarterbacks, is my guess. Because this tells you how much I've paid attention to the Raiders. I want to say Gardner Minshew's was
Yeah,
there. Aiden O'Connell, I think, was playing, took most of the starting snaps. But you have Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Those are your 2 top quarterbacks. I guess Desmond Ritter got traded or signed with the Raiders as well. You just look at those three quarterbacks. They're not future Pro Bowlers. They're not going to the Super Bowl. So you'd have to, I think, if you're taking in Aaron Rodgers, you'd have to package one of those quarterbacks to get a prospect, a young talent with potential to learn under Rodgers. Because I don't see it. I don't think one, if Al Davis was still alive, no way he's touching Rodgers. But Mark Davis, I don't think knows really how to run this team, which is a little sad because I mean his dad's probably Al Davis is just rolling in the grave, probably seeing how bad these Raiders are doing. But
Yeah, it's an unfortunate time to be a Raider fan. Glad I'm not one.
same.
Just a couple more small notes from the NFL. We talked about Adams being released by the Jets, which was kind of shocking. Saints released Jamal Williams, which is sad to see him go, but they didn't really use him much. I think he's only
No.
about 100. I think he's like 200, 100, between 100 and 300 yards away from becoming BYU's all-time leading rusher in terms of NFL yardage. So I'm hoping he gets picked up and he's able to get used a bit more next season. And then DK Metcalf requesting a trade and Tyler Lockett getting released from the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So out of all those, which one are you paying most attention to?
I'm paying attention to DK Metcalf. Not. I don't think looking at requesting a trade. I don't think looking at that is such a big worry if I'm a Seahawks fan, because we've looked at it. We've looked at this same scenario in the past with top receivers or top quarterbacks threatening to. I don't know if it's a threat. It's a marketing move to get the Seahawks to restructure his contract. I think he's going into the last year of his contract and he probably wants more money. So he's saying, I want to look for a trade. While I'm doing this, let me know what your best offer is. And if I ran into something better, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
So that out of all that we just talked about is the most not worried. I don't know if worrisome is the best word to use, but I'm looking at that just to see how much money he gets, whether it's from the Seahawks or from another team.
That's a good point, yeah, because that doesn't mean he's gone from the Seahawks, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like West Coast football, I mean, we were talking about the Raiders, like they're going to look drastically different next year. At least that's the hope from Raiders fans.
That's the hope, yeah.
You have the Broncos who are making a surge with Bo Nix. You've got the Chiefs, obviously, who are incredible. You've got the Chargers who just released Joey Bosa. So who knows what's going on in that division. And then with the other side of things, you have the Rams we talked about their defense is looking great. They just re-signed Stafford. We've got the Cardinals, who I don't really know what's going on with the Cardinals, but it's the Cardinals, I guess. And then you've got blanking on the other team in that division.
Niners. Yeah.
Niners. I mean, they're always going to compete. And then you've got the Seahawks we were just talking about. So West Coast football. It's a fun time to be a West Coast football fan, unless like I don't know. It's fun to look at from a distance of West Coast football. Like if you're a diehard like fan of one of those teams who's having all these trades, or if you're a Raiders fan, you're not happy right now with anything. But it's a good time to be West Coast football fan.
Well, that's where most of the buzz, I think, has been happening, at least in the NFL news side of things. I mean, just to name off the teams that have had something to talk about, we got Niners, Rams, now Seahawks. That's almost the entire NFC West. Mm-hmm. Then we go to the AFC West. I mean, we just had Chargers break that out. Raiders. We just talked about Raiders. Raiders, like you said, Raiders are a mess. We'll see what they do. Chiefs are always a talking point. Mm-hmm. Chiefs are probably going to make some magical run again, even though they seem to be on the break of the end of their dynasty every single year. No, West Coast football is very exciting.
It really is. Sticking on the West Coast as we hit kind of the last couple topics for the show. Mike Trout and Roki Sasaki. Trout homered today in spring training, and then Roki Sasaki made his debut of sorts as just spring training. But 3 innings pitched, only I think it was 1 hit allowed. I think he had 5 strikeouts. I mean, he looks like the real deal. 99 miles an hour was the top he got as far as pitches thrown. So, I mean, I just threw the Trout homer in there because I like to talk about Trout.
Hey, we got it, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, Roki Sasaki might be. He's going to live up to the hype, is what it sounds like.
Well, that I was just going to make that comment is he's sounding to have a better introduction of sorts, I guess you can say, than Yamamoto did. I mean, Yamamoto got on the mound in spring training or the first game of the season, and you're scratching your head like, is this guy going to be really worth the hype? And ultimately, he really didn't live up to it. I don't think last
Yeah.
season. So to see Saki have a somewhat impressive opener. I mean, if you're a Dodgers fan, you're like, okay. I mean, you just won the World Series, so you're feeling okay in general. But in terms of pitching, I mean, you just potentially just added another huge name, another potential All Star, possibly.
Yeah. It's fun. Baseball's a lot of fun. World Baseball Classic 1 year from today is when it starts, which I'm amped about that they didn't push it back an extra year because of like the whole everything. I think it was when the Olympics were happening. I don't know exactly why they pushed it back. I think it was probably a COVID thing. But like I was bummed because I missed the last World Baseball Classic because I was on my mission, and so like I'm pumped to see that. I think if we had more time, I think it'd be fun to kind of build that perfect U.S. roster. Um, but I don't know. Maybe
We'll,
we'll have
we'll,
to do
we'll
it next
save it
year.
for next episode.
Yeah, I
That
like
that
that.
sounds like a good talking point.
I like
But
that.
speaking of World Baseball, though, I mean, going back to the Dodgers
Yeah.
Cubs Tokyo series to start the MLB season, talking about Ruiz Ruiz Sasaki
Mhm.
being back in Japan. I
Yeah.
can especially if he starts
Oh,
or at
I think
least
he is.
is he
He's
going to be
gonna
starting?
he's gonna be their number. He's gonna start for game two for them. So game one is gonna be Shota Imanaga or whoever it is on the Cubs
Okay,
against
yeah,
Yoshi,
yeah.
and then game
Oh,
two, Roki Sasaki is gonna start.
oh man. Okay, that just got me pumped. Actually, I am definitely going to watch those. But just thinking of that, that can only boost his confidence. I can think
Mhm.
being back home, having. I mean, his family is more likely going to be in
Yep.
attendance. I mean, just the entire country of Japan unites behind these Japanese baseball players, and the atmosphere behind Japanese fans in baseball is unmatched. I
It
think.
is it wrong to say that Japan is keeping the sport of baseball alive right now?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, you look at the World Baseball Classic last year, I think a number spit out for the championship game, US Japan. Japan obviously ending up winning, which
Mhm.
is it wrong of me to say that I was rooting for Japan? That I wanted
I don't
Japan
think
to
so.
win?
I don't think so.
I think it might have been Fox uh, put out it might have just been a comment, or it might have been a diagram as well. But I think about almost 90% of the country of Japan tuned in to watch that game.
Wow.
Just even 80% of that country tuning in. That is the most densely populated city in Tokyo in the world. Big, one of the largest countries, just period, in the world. To have 80 to 90% of your country tuning in to watch one game, they're 100% keeping the sport
Yeah,
alive.
it's it's fun. Like I know the high school and college ranks in Japan are a lot of fun as well, and keeping alongside that college theme, BYU baseball today lost a heartbreaker to Stetson, the Hatters. Um, they were down big, down 5-0 early, and then clawed their way back. Christian Watkins, I forget his name. Watkins, whoever it is, scored 2 runs, I think, for the Cougars, and then that last inning gave up 1 run in the top of the ninth, and then scored three. He had a double that brought one in, and then with runners on second and third, you had a single that brought in two to cut the lead to 6-5 with 1 out left, and then Stetson struck out the last two batters. Um, so BYU ends their 3-game win streak, but I mean, hey, they looked good. They clawed their way back at the end.
I mean, they have him tomorrow, right? They have him back tomorrow. This is a
4-game
four
series.
game series. Yep.
Yep.
So I'm not going to be too down on losing one of those,
Mm-hmm.
especially. I mean, Stetson's a good team. I mean, we talked about last game. They went toe to toe with Florida, who's one of the best
Yep.
baseball teams in the nation. So they're going to be a tough team, but I wouldn't be surprised if they close out the series with 3.
Three.
If they just close it out, three wins.
Okay, I like the hope. I like the hype surrounding this team.
Well,
Um,
just from what you mentioned, I mean, they're down 5, you said, and they clawed back to cut it pretty close in the bottom of the ninth.
mhm,
So if they just maintain their composure or get a good start, I think they'll be fine for this series.
yeah, no homers for this team, but um, they've been hitting the ball well this year. And if we want to also talk about hitting the ball well, how about George Mason? Was it Tuesday where they scored 23 runs in the second inning?
I saw that tweet by Jeff Passan. I thought it was fake. I didn't believe it. I also thought it was just in the game, period.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, oh, 23 runs. I'm like, oh, that's kind of crazy, but I can only imagine there's been more in a game.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the fine print, the fine lining of it was in the top of the third, I went, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a little more serious of news. I can't think of I can't think of anything more impressive, honestly, than dropping 23 in a single inning.
No,
I mean,
it was insane. Do you want to read through the tweet
you,
because I think you
you
have it
want
pulled up, right?
I
Yeah,
I
read
have
through it.
I have the tweet. So this was the other part that blew me away. Was I'm like, okay, they just had a really good hitting night. I mean, they probably had like 5 homers,
Mm-hmm.
probably in the inning or something. Well, in those 23 runs in a single inning, again, that was without a home run or a triple.
No triples either.
No triples. It went in order: ground out, first out, 2 walks, 2 singles,
Okay.
um, hit by pitch, double single, 2 hit by pitches, fielder's choice, a double, a walk, hit by pitch, another 2 walks, double single, hit by pitch, double, pop out for a second out, walk, double single, double walk, single, fielder's choice for the third out. They
Wow.
through that period, at one point, they had 19 consecutive hitters for George Mason reach base.
That's impressive. I mean, like even thinking like Major League Baseball, like I don't know the last time like that many people even got up in an inning. You know,
I maybe we can look it up. Most
so I know the most runs ever in a game. I think Phillies scored 33 in a game one time. But like I don't know about an inning. What do you
I
see on
just
your
looked
end?
up. In a single inning, 18 runs.
Okay.
This was when was this? Oh gosh, I can't get the exact date. It's kind of a crooked, but it was an 18 runs in a single inning by the White Sox.
Yeah, White Sox finally getting some love.
Oh no, Chicago White Stockings, which are now the Cubs. So this
Oh,
was the artist formerly known as the White Stockings, now the Cubs. But just major leaguers, not even getting into the 20s. I mean, it is the major leagues, so the best of the best, but still,
yeah.
that is a crazy, insane stat line.
And when did you say that game was? Did you say you had a date on that?
That day, I can only imagine it was early
Yeah.
1900s
Okay.
if it was the Chicago White Stockings.
Yeah.
Um, but during that time as well, Holy Cross used 5 pitchers in the inning as
Wow.
well, which is also I've seen, I think, in the majors a 3 pitcher inning, but to have five to just
And
crank out
especially
5.
especially in the second inning also. Like if that's one
Third
thing
inning,
having
third
like
inning,
was it
just
third inning?
third.
Okay.
It was not much better, but
Yeah, like especially to have, then you've used five pitchers already. Like your bullpen has got to be depleted
I
at
mean,
this point.
you're lucky. It's rare enough to use 5 pitchers in a game in its entirety.
Yeah, especially in college.
Yeah,
Wild stuff.
that I think was the craziest. Other than the BYU Iowa State game, of course, that was probably the craziest thing that happened this week.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're running out of time, but Just some small news before we kind of hit our last topic. BYU women's basketball knocked out of the Big 12 tournament first round, led by Delaney Gibb. Obviously, she had 15 points, 4 rebounds today. So UCF seemed to have an answer for her. They got the Cougs back after the Cougs beat them in February here in Provo. So tough loss. Obviously, the women done for the season. But with Delaney Gibb, I mean, second team All Big 12. The only Cougar to receive any All Big 12 honors. Future looks bright for them.
Definitely. I mean, especially for this being her freshman year,
Yeah,
it can only go up, especially if they can get some girls out of the transfer portal, sign some new players. I mean, the program is on the rise for sure.
Yeah.
I saw that was the heartbreaker though. I think I saw it was pretty. Were they leading or they were down by a bucket or two at half?
At the end of the third quarter.
Yeah, that's a tough loss.
And to be honest, I slept through that entire game, and once I woke up, had to say, "Hey Siri, what was the score of the BYU game?"
Hey, I get that. I understand.
Iowa State yesterday. The final score was 88-85.
Well, at least she knows the right game. Yeah. So
Siri going for the wins. I like that. But finally, just to kind of finish things off, you pulled in that quote from Reese Davis, where he was asked what college football will look like in the next 30 years. And he said it will look largely the same as now in 3 years past. That I imagine there being super leagues. There will be a smaller, highest tier of teams, probably around 100 teams. Kind of, you know the context of that a little bit more than I do. Want to go deeper into that?
Yeah. So Reese, he was on a podcast. I'd had to pull up the specific one, but he asked Reese what he'd imagine the college football landscape looking in 30 years' time. And I was a little shocked by his answer when I first heard it, when he said, I don't think it will change at all in the next 30 years, largely. But then when he started talking about, well, the 3 years prior, when contracts are expiring with teams and with leagues and TV deals, that's when it can start to really change. And I'm like, I had never thought about that. That's probably when the leagues will I wouldn't be surprised if conferences and schools leave the NCAA, because I think that would probably be with football 100%, because they're losing. They're not losing money, but relatively speaking, they're losing money compared to how much money they could be making. I mean, college football is a gold mine. So when he's saying he imagines there being super leagues, that's already in the works. Yeah. I think in 30 years, 35 years, probably 40 years, it's just going to be either East-West or SEC and Big Ten. Those are two conferences that I can see. If it's going to drop down to two conferences and a 50-50 with Reese saying he probably thinks it's going to be about 100 teams, I can see those two conferences being the only two that survive and either keeping the name or rebranding to just an East and West.
See, I like that idea of East-West, but I almost wonder if it'd be a better fit of North-South. That way you have that Big Ten. You can keep Big Ten together. You can keep the SEC together. And the only thing with that, though, is also no snow games, right? Is then only the teams up north have the snow games, and the teams down south don't. And so you wonder if there's some way where the country is almost split like diagonally. And so you have the Southeast, right, and all those big name schools. You can maybe take, Oklahoma, Texas, you can take all those schools, and you can bring it up even to like Boston College, all the way up there. So you get the ACC and the SEC, and then on the northwest side of the country, right, and saying Big Ten would be northwest, like, sounds weird, but like, if you were to just take the country right down the middle like this, then you've got all the California teams, you've got the Big Ten, you've got BYU, Utah, got Arizona Big 12, or Arizona and Colorado. Like, those could be fun, like, too big, almost like an AL-NL type situation.
That's kind of how I was thinking. If they were to restructure it and to make it more even, like, say, a couple West Coast teams in one conference, another in the other, if they would kind of split it up like the NFL is doing, AFC, NFC, East, NFC West, AFC East, like, I wonder if that would be the best approach, because you just split in half, like we were talking about. That east side of the country is in a freaking rail on the west side.
Yeah.
So I think I put that in there because it really made me think, and I thought it was very interesting to hear Reese Davis, one of the faces of college football, saying it'll probably be very different in around 35 years.
For sure. It's wild stuff. Sports world is going to look vastly different the next 30 years. So I'm glad we're starting this podcast now.
For real. It also gets you thinking what schools would survive. Because there's a lot of schools in Division One, FBS. The schools that I think about are the Utah States, the Wyomings, the UCFs, like those schools that are in the top tier but are towards the bottom in terms of size and history and importance, I guess you could say. So we could probably talk about this for hours, but
yeah, like if you were to go with that, I think Utah would be safe. Like I think they would be able to take it.
I think BYU, Utah are good. I think.
I almost think BYU would be on the fence.
You think?
Like I think they'd be on the right side of the fence. But I think the question is, okay, well, how many teams are you taking? You know, if you're taking 40 teams, okay, you know, does BYU make the cut? If you're taking 30 teams, I don't know if they do. Like I think Utah gets in. I think Utah can build themselves into a powerhouse, but I think BYU still got more to prove, and this upcoming football season should be a fun one. Hopefully they can, cement themselves as a runner for the title each year in the Big 12. But yeah, sports, a lot of fun right now.
There's no better time, I don't think, right now with NCAA getting crazy with money and the NFL growing bigger than it's ever been. MLB getting some life back. I remember listening to the radio probably 8-10 years ago, and those guys talking about how it's a dying sport. Like it is America's pastime, but it might legitimately become America's pastime. Yeah. So this is a great time to be covering sports, and I'm glad we're doing this.
It's an exciting time. Any final words before we end this episode?
No, I'm excited to build out our Team USA World Baseball Classic roster though next episode. Maybe we even jot down what we think those conferences for college football would be in the next 40 years. That could be fun, but
I like that a lot. So yeah, that's next episode. We'll be covering BYU Utah preview. We'll be covering World Baseball Classic a little bit, what we think those teams might look like, and super conferences. Where could that go? Maybe we even touch, if basketball were to rebrand a little bit.
Yeah.
I think those super conferences might look like. But this is the Scoreboard Sports Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Scoreboard Sports. You can also, I believe we have an email, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep, we got an email if you want to reach out. I mean, if there's some people that want to do partnerships, sponsors. I mean, hey, we're open. We're open in years, but as of right now, we're just on YouTube. You can check us out on Spotify as well if you want to take a listen. So go check us out.
Scoreboardsports@gmail.com, right?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, there it is. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 2 of the Scoreboard Sports Podcast. I'm Cameron Clark alongside Connor Kendall. See you all Saturday morning.